Hello and welcome to Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts. Today what I'm going to be doing is something a little bit different. I'm going to be going through the things that I use to colour resin and to put pigment into resin. Now, I know a lot of people probably use lots of different things, and please, if there's one I haven't covered that you use a lot and get great success from, please let me know in the comments. But what I'm going to be showing you is all the things that I use, that I colour resin with, and that I always get great results from, and it never is a problem with the curing or affects the resin negatively in any way. So please enjoy this video. Hope this helps people who are not sure, and please leave a comment, like and subscribe. So depending on what colour I'm mixing up or what I'm using depends on when I put it in the pot. So it depends whether I put the resin in first or the colour in first. So the first one I'm going to do is just red paint. And I don't want to waste this resin, so I'm going to cast it in some moulds. I'm just going to write on there red paint. And what I will be using is this acrylic paint. Now, lots of acrylic paints work well with resins, but there's also a lot out there that don't work well. I've used acrylic paints and within a few minutes it's heated up my resin to the point where it's just set, it looks a mess. So be careful what paints you do use, and you know, if you can, do a little bit of research on them, what other people use. But I always use Crawford and Black, and what I have found is that with acrylic paint, it's the thicker paints that tend to not react with the resin, and it's the runnier paints that tend to react with the resin. So if it's really watery and runny, then I find it reacts. Now, I always put the acrylic paint in first, okay, and I want a red because it's very difficult to get a good red colour elsewhere with other sorts of colouring, especially mica and things like that. So I put that in first, and never put more than 10% that you're going to use of the resin, because it will affect the way that the resin cures, and it can prevent it from curing. Now, I'm not worrying too much about bubbles with this now, because the colours actually, you can't see the bubbles, so I'm not worrying about that throughout. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir that red in until I'm happy that it's a really even consistency and it's fully stirred in. And I've written on my little mould red paint, so I know what it is, because remember, I am colourblind and I will not know which one is which after I've poured them. So this is a red paint, and as you can see, that is a really quite a nice deep opaque colour, and it's not going to have a problem setting. So all I will do is I will pour that in there. Now that is red paint, and red paint is quite pretty, but if you want it to be just a little bit different as well, pop that in so it's in all the sides, then what you can do is add a little bit of mica powder. Now, I've added mica powder to paint often, and it will give that iridescence to the colour, and it will still give a really, really deep colour. I think I might need to add a little bit more of that. And actually, also, I've not really found any volume of mica powder that prevents its setting. So this is the one with mica powder in, although you actually don't need to use much, so don't overdo it because it's not cheap. So use it sparingly and add it as you need it. Okay, so that's now a little bit of red paint and mica powder, and that will just give it that little bit of iridescence that you might be looking for when you're casting things or using it on anything, if you're making a picture or anything. Red paint plus mica. Now in this one I'm just going to use mica, and we will be able to see the difference. Now again, when I'm using mica or just mica, I put it in first because I just find it stirs up better and you don't get little clumps. So pop that in there. That should be enough. That bleepy 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 is my Bluetooth speaker. Sorry, because I was listening to some James Blunt before I started recording this. So again, just give it a good stir until you're happy with the consistency and you think it's all stirred in. And can you see what I mean by adding red mica? Even though that red in the mica is quite a dark colour, when it actually comes out of the mixing up, it does come out almost a pinky colour, which is nice in itself. But if you want a deep red, then you need to go, I think, for the acrylic paint. So then that's just mica. Okay. So one of the next things that I use is alcohol ink. With alcohol ink, I always put it in afterwards. I don't know why. I just find it mixes up much better, and you don't get it stuck around the bottom of the container that you're mixing in, which at the moment I'm mixing in these little shot glasses. And you don't need a great deal of alcohol ink, but it will leave the opaque look. And some of the alcohol inks will give a darker colour than others. So I find the blues cover quite well, where the yellow itself is not as dark. So you need just a little bit more. But again, never more than 10%. But you wouldn't need 10% to be able to get this effect. So that's the alcohol ink, and that's the Sunbright Yellow from Pinata. Now, the other thing I find with alcohol inks is they do fade over time as well, a lot quicker than other things. So there's the alcohol ink. Let's put the top back on that, because if not, I will knock it over. The other thing you can buy is you can buy colours, specifically opaque pigments, specifically for resin, and most resin suppliers will actually be able to supply you with these. Now, you really don't need a lot. Okay, look, that's all I've took, just a little stickful, and that probably would have done 3 times the amount that I'm going to mix up here. So I leave it on my stick, I pop my resin in there, and then I just give it a stir around. And these will be opaque. And again, you can mix mica in with these if you wish, to get that iridescence that you're looking for. And I'll scrape my stick in case there's any colour on that left. This isn't a particularly clean mould. There is bits in it. I don't know how. So again, that's done nicely. And that, as you can see, is a really nice black. There we go. So that's opaque pigments that you can get from most suppliers of resin. The next one I'm going to use is going to be glitter. Now, I always put the glitter in again after I've poured the resin in, because if not, I do find that it sticks to the bottom. And the other thing is, when using glitter, is it does tend to rise or sink into the resin. So when using glitter, I always try and use glitter and put it in the resin after I've let the resin cure a little bit in the pot and thicken up a little bit, and that way it tends to stay where it's put. So again, just give it a good mix till you're happy with it. Okay, and then pour it out. And I love putting glitter in things and on things. I think it really does give them a little bit of a shine. Some people don't like glitter, but I do. I love glitter. So make sure you've got it around the back of there. I've overfilled that mould a little bit, because you can't overfill so the little holes there are not exposed, because if not you won't have a hole in your final mould. Okay, so there's the glitter. The other thing you can use, and works quite well, is glowing powders, powders that make your resin glow when exposed to UV light. And really you don't need to add loads of this again, but it is a dry powder, so it's not really going to affect, I don't find, the curing time, unlike the wet liquids like the acrylic paint. So just give that a good mix in, and then depending on how much you use depends on how opaque it is as well. Alright, so here's this one. Oh look, I've spilt some in that red glitter one. That's fine. You might just have a bit of glowy in it, but it'll well, it's not red glitter, it's bronze glitter, sorry. So there we go. So there's that one. And then the last one that I use, and I'm only going to do a small mould with this one because I haven't got much resin left, is a food colouring. Now with food colouring you've got to be careful, because a lot of food colouring is water based, so you really don't want to put too much in, because if you do it will affect and alter the curing of the resin. But it is a cheap alternative and it is a last resort, so let's give that a shake. And what I'm going to be using is a sky blue, and I'm just going to put in 3 drops of that, because actually it does go a long way and it does colour the resin quite well as a sky blue. So that should be enough resin now to fill this one. Oh, and I've dropped a bit of sky blue in that glitter again. Honestly, I am messy though. Anyone knows me knows I'm messy. So there we go. I'm going to label these up and then I'm going to go over it with my heat gun. Okay, so I've labelled those all up now. So we've got red paint and mica, just mica, AI ink, resin pigment, glitter, glow in the dark pigment, and food colouring. And there are other things you can use. I've heard of people using an eyeshadow that they particularly like. Well, most eyeshadows are made out of, I believe, mica, so that would work quite well. And obviously, with whatever you're using, so there's a vast range of acrylic paints. So there's tons of colours that you can choose from. There's a vast range of mica colours. And there's a vast range of glitters and glow in the dark and food colorings and resin pigments and alcohol inks. There's everything that you could possibly need. So using these methods, there is no real color that you shouldn't be able to achieve. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to let these cure, and then once they're cured, I'll pop them out the mold and I'll show you what each of them looks like once they're cured. Thank you. So these have cured nicely now. I've let them cure for probably about 18 hours. So this is just the red paint one. And as you can see, that's a nice deep red, flat colour as well. It's shiny because obviously the mould's shiny. This is red paint with mica. And I can see the difference in them. That is a little bit more iridescent and a little bit more sparkly. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up. And this is just mica. And as you can see, this is what I mean about mica powder. However red it looks, it always comes out looking a bit pinky. But that's still a nice colour in itself. It's got a little bit of iridescence in it and a bit of texture as well. So we've got alcohol ink, and as I said, they come out opaque, most of them. Okay, but you can put a nice sticker behind that or something, and it will look really good. And I quite like the opaqueness. It makes it look a bit stained glass windery. Then we've got the resin pigment, which is a black pigment, and it does just give you a black, very glossy finish. And all the pigments, if they're opaque, look like that. Then we've got just glitter, and as you can see, glitter does colour the resin throughout, and this one has settled all the way through. It's not just floated to the bottom. It's because I used a micro glitter. Then we've got the glow in the dark pigment. Let's just turn the lights off and see if it glows in the dark. There we go. It does glow in comparison to that one. It does need charging with a UV light though to get it to glow properly. And this is the food colouring, which is often the most surprising one. And only you just need a couple of drops of food colouring, and it will give you a really nice finished colour. So I hope that's been useful to give you some ideas of what I use to colour my resin. If you've got other things that you use and they work successfully, please let me know in the comments below. And if you've got any ideas of things that you'd like me to show or test as well on my videos, then please also leave that in the comments and I will get to them. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and hit the bell and leave me a comment. Bye. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and share this video as much as you can to help my channel grow. Bye.